She tried to protect her dying mother. Then a stranger stepped in. A frontier memory, as told by a man who was there. I've seen a lot of things in this life I wish I hadn't. This one I don't wish that about, even though it was hard to look at. I'm glad I looked. It was early February 1895. Cold the way February gets when it's done pretending. Not windy, not dramatic, just a solid, still cold that settles into everything and doesn't move. Coming down the main street of a town called Orange Crossing when I heard it. Not crying, something before crying. The sound a person makes when they're scared past the point of knowing what sound to make. I turned toward it. There was a woman down in the snow, right there in the middle of the street, between the livery and the grain office. On her back, one arm out, face turned sideways. Snow settling on her dark hair, on her coat, on the back of her hand. Not moving, and kneeling over her, both small hands pressed flat against the woman's chest, was a girl. 3 years old, maybe 4. White bonnet, brown coat, 2 sizes too big for her. Face wet and red and crumpled up with something that was too big for a face that's small to hold. She was pushing on her mother's chest, both tones. Pushing and pushing, like she thought, if she just kept at it long enough, something would change. I was moving before I decided to move. I don't usually go back to this one. It's not an easy memory to handle. But if you're still here, if something about it pulled at you, stay with me. It goes somewhere. I promise it goes somewhere. When I got close, the girl looked up at me. Those eyes, I could still see them. Pale blue, wet. Locked on mine like I was the last solid thing in the world. She didn't run, didn't back away. She just looked at me and said, "Fix her." 2 words, that plain. I got down on my knees beside a woman. Her name was, I found out later, Clara. Voss, 28 years old. She was breathing. Shallow, fast, too fast, but breathing. Her skin had gone the color of candle wax, and her lips had a blue cast at the edges that I didn't like. I put 2 fingers to her throat. Pulse there, thin and unsteady, but there. "She's alive," I said, to the girl, mostly. Because the girl needed to hear it. The girl kept her hands on her mother's chest, didn't move them. "What's your name?" I said. "May. May, I need you to let me see to her. Can you do that?" She looked at me for a long moment, deciding something. At 3 years old, deciding something serious. Then she moved her hands, just slightly, just enough. A man came out of the grain office, Hollander, the owner, and stood on his step watching. "You know this woman?" I called over. "Seen her around," he said. Didn't move from the step. I looked at him for a moment, then I looked away. There's a kind of man who watches trouble from a safe distance and calls it not his business. I've been that man before, in different circumstances. I know how it works. You tell yourself there's probably someone better suited. You tell yourself it'll sort itself out. It doesn't usually sort itself out. I got Clara up off the ground. She was light, too light for a grown woman, the kind of light that comes from not eating enough. Over a long stretch, she stirred when I lifted her. Didn't wake, but made a sound. Her hand moved. May grabbed that hand, held it with both of hers, and walked alongside me as I carried her mother toward the nearest covered doorway. She didn't let go. Not once. I had to adjust my gait to keep from stepping on her. I didn't say anything about it. That grip was the most important thing happening, and I wasn't going to interrupt it. There was a woman named Debs who ran the seamstress shop 2 doors down. She came out when she saw us coming and held the door without being asked. That's worth remembering. She just held the door. Didn't ask questions. Didn't make me explain myself standing in the cold with an unconscious woman and a 3-year-old. Just held the door. We got Clara onto a cot in the back room. Debs had a wood stove going, and the heat was a different world after the street. May climbed up and sat beside her mother, still holding the hand. She watched my face. The whole time I was working, checking Clara's breathing, getting her coat off, getting something warm against the back of her neck, watching me like I was a problem she was trying to solve. Is she going to be all right? May said. I didn't answer right away. I wanted to say yes, but a child who's been through what that child had been through in the past hour deserved an honest answer, not a comfortable one. She's breathing, I said, and her heart's beating. That's 2 things that matter. We're going to keep her warm and wait and see. May thought about that. That's not a yes, she said. No, I said. It's not. She nodded, turned back to her mother, kept holding the hand. Deb sent her boy for the doctor. There was one, a man named Pruitt. He kept irregular hours but came when called. He arrived inside 40 minutes, looked Clara over, and said it was exhaustion and exposure. Said her heart was under strain from it. Said she needed rest and food and warmth for at least 2 weeks. And if she got those things, she'd likely come through. Likely. He said it like it was good news. I suppose compared to the alternative it was. Clara woke up about an hour later, slow, confused, the way people come back from that kind of dark. Her eyes found May first. That seemed to settle something in her. You're safe, May told her. Just like that. 3 years old, telling her mother she was safe. Clara's hand tightened around May's fingers. Her eyes went around the room. Des stuck at the stove. Me, standing near the door. The unfamiliar ceiling. How? She said. Her voice came out rough, used up. May looked at me. Him, she said. The same way she'd said everything else. Plain. Certain. Clara looked at me for a long moment. There was something in her face I couldn't quite name. Not just gratitude. That was part of it. but something older than gratitude. Something that had been carrying a very long time and had just, for a moment, been set down. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. Some moments don't need words put in them. I found out over the next couple of days what I hadn't known to ask. Clara had been widowed. The previous spring, husband died of a fever that moved fast and didn't leave room to prepare. She'd been managing since then, laundry, mending, whatever work she could find, and she'd been managing it without complaint, without asking anyone for more than she absolutely had to. The problem with that kind of managing is it doesn't leave room for getting sick yourself, doesn't leave room for the body to say enough. She'd felt it coming for days, she told me later. The dizziness, the cold that lived inside, her coat no matter how she bundled. She'd kept going because stopping didn't feel like something she was allowed to do. I understood that more than I wanted to. Debs let them stay in the back room while Clara recovered. The town wasn't warm about it. A widow and a small child, taking up space, needing things. But Debs didn't ask the town's opinion. That was her room and her stove and her call. A few people helped. Most watched. One or two made remarks about charity and what it encourages. Clara heard. She had the kind of ears that catch what people aren't quite saying to your face. It cost her something, I think. But she took the help anyway, because May needed her too. That's a hard thing. Taking help, you know. Some people resent you for needing. It takes more out of a person than pride alone would. I stayed in Orange Crossing 11 days. Longer than I'd meant to. There was work at the livery, and I was in no particular hurry, and I'll admit I wanted to see Clara on her feet before I left. She was, by the time I rode out, not fully herself. You don't come back from that kind of depletion in 11 days, but standing, steady, taking meals at Debs's table, collar back in her face. May walked me to my horse the morning I left. She had to run to keep up, and she didn't mention. At the horse, she stopped, looked up at me. "Are you going to come back?" she said. "I don't know," I said. "Probably not." She nodded. She'd been expecting that answer. She was 3 years old, and she'd been expecting that answer. She reached up, took my hand for just a second, then let go and walked back toward the shop. Without looking back, I watched her go. Then I rode. Then I rode my hands on her mother's chest sometimes. That pushing, that small, stubborn, useless, and not useless pushing. She couldn't fix anything. She didn't have the size for it, the knowledge. But she didn't leave. She stayed and she pushed and she held on. And sometimes that's what gets somebody through. February 1895, Frontier Narration Series.